What's up guys, TopTierYugioh here, and today we're going to look into the future of Metalfoes with the Zoodiac Metalfoes deck profile. So Zoodiacs are coming out in Raging Tempest in a few weeks, so now is the time to start testing, now's the time to start preparing for this format, and so far I'm a huge fan of Zoodiac Metalfoes. It's extremely consistent, and being able to make plays both with and without your pendulum summon ultimately lead to having a higher ceiling. So having a high consistency plus a high ceiling really leads to a lot of success, so I'm a huge fan. But we'll get to that later. And now if you'd like to see this deck in action, please like this video, give it a big ol' thumbs up, and if this video gets 50 likes, I'll upload some duels with it. But let's go ahead and move on. And so I would like to briefly go over why this is the preferred Metalfoes variant post Raging Tempest. And sure, you could just say, oh, Zodiacs are broken, play them in everything. But I truly believe that understanding the theory and reasoning behind the deck really gives you a greater understanding of it, and that can lead to being able to make better deck building decisions and having just better results with it. And as for why this deck works, the Metalfoes ceiling alone is just way too low, which is why you are forced to play other engines in it like Mad Specters, Cleaforts, Frogs, Gofu, and in this case Zoodiac, and all of these allow you to summon monsters with quick effects to help you control the tempo, which can help you win the game by soft locking your opponent out of it. But the operative question is why Zoodiacs are better than any of the other engines that you could be playing, and I think there are three major reasons as to why. So number one, they don't require your pendulum summon, and so you could play around and even out anti-spell with it. You can force cards like Striker Barrier to keep them from using it on your pendulum summon. And if you look at the Mad Specter or Cleafort engines, they depend on your pendulum summon just like your Metalfoe plays do. And so if your opponent has a barrier, your turn is over. If they have a strike, your turn is over, and maybe even the game in that case. And even if they do have a strike, with the Zoodiac engine you can make DAIGUSTO EMERAL for free, and you can just shuffle your monsters back and draw a card and then continue to make your plays, while also having a Drancia to protect your board. Number two, they can be used in simplified game states with just one card. And so all you need is one rat, one triangle, one tinky, etc. And then you're allowed to make these fantastic plays. Metalfoes generally require a high number of cards to do anything because you need your scales, but having some cards that you can work with even if you don't have scales really helps the deck be more consistent. And a lot of times it just helps you stay alive until you can draw your skills and then make your big play. And then number three, they can search a low scale. And so this actually helps your Metalfoe engine, because this is ultimately a Metalfoes deck and you're limited by your ability to pendulum summon. You're limited by your ability to get a low scale because you do have so many high scales already. So as for how they search it, I'll get to that later, so stick around for all the interesting things that Zoodiacs can bring to the table. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into the actual profile. And so first we do play the standard 15 Metalfoes and 3 Eccentric Archfiends. Those are standard. There's no reason not to play any of those. Next we play 1 Unicorn and 3 Raccoons to search the 1 Unicorn. Then we have 1 Dragoons of Dragonia, so this is a weird choice, but the pendulum effect reads that once per turn, if a normal monster you control destroys an opponent's monster by battle, after damage calculation, add 1 level 4 or higher normal monster from your deck to your hand. And so once this is in your pendulum scales, it's going to allow you to search either a high or low scale. You can search Gold Driver for a low scale, you can search Volflame for a high scale. But the important part is that it's a level 4 Beast Warrior that's a 2 scale. And so what this means is that you can search it with Tinky, so you have a searchable low scale. And that's extremely important. And while the Mad Specters also allow you to search a low scale, you can search Unicorn, that's a 2 scale. But if you're putting Unicorn in your scale to pendulum summon with, then you're not pendulum summoning a Unicorn. And if you don't have Unicorn, then the Mad Specter engine is ultimately weaker. So this is more of a true searchable low scale. And by that I mean you can search it and then still make your big play, which can be Unicorn. So then for the Zoodiacs, we have 3 Rats and 1 Viper. And so for those of you who don't know what they do, I will put the links to the wiki page in the description, so definitely check that out if you don't know. But when Rat is normal summoned, you can send 1 Zoodiac card from your deck to the graveyard, which in this case can either be Elemental Triangle or Viper, so you only have 2 targets. So that effect's not too important. And then an Xyz monster whose original type is Beast Warrior with this card as an Xyz material gains the following effect. Once per turn, detach 1 material from this card and special summon 1 Momorat from your deck. From your hand or deck, I'm sorry. And so this is the real important part of the effect, because you make a Zoodiac Xyz, then you detach Rat to special summon another Rat, and so it really leads to making more rank 4s. And so all you need is this 1 Rat to make more Rats, and so they really swarm the field pretty quickly. And then for Zoodiac Beast Viper, the effect is that during either player's turn, you can target 1 Beast Warrior type Xyz monster you control, and attach this card from your hand or field as an Xyz material. And then an Xyz monster whose original type is Beast Warrior gains the following effect. If this card battles an opponent's monster, after damage calculation, banish the opponent's monster. So this effect is really useful because your Zoodiac Xyz monsters don't actually have any attack or defense normally. And so this means that your opponent just can't attack over them for free. So if you equip this to it so if you attach this to it, you can banish your opponent's monsters. And if you can actually boost the attack of your Xyz monsters, it really turns all of them into Shaddoll Construct, really. So Viper has an extremely useful effect. And a lot of times they won't see it coming if it's in your hand, if you just hard drew it. And so Viper is definitely necessary in my opinion. Next we play 2 Max Cs, and then for the last monster, and this was actually the last card in the deck, like I needed one more card in the deck. I was at 39, and for me it was between Vanity's Emptiness and Tour Guide, but ultimately I chose Tour Guide. So what Tour Guide does for this deck is, one, it gives you an out the anti-spell or other traps going second if you still have your normal summons. That's the only real restriction, because we do play Breaksword, but also it allows us to go into M-X-SABER Invoker and summon Marmorat from our deck, and then go into our Zoodiac Beast plays. And so ultimately I ended up going with Tour Guide over Vanities, because Tour Guide is good going first or second, whereas Vanities is only good going first, and ultimately you want to give yourself more cards versus taking cards away from your opponent, which is what Vanities effectively does. But my only worry with Tour Guide is that it's a normal summon, and so this deck does have a high number of normal summons actually, because we do have the 3 raccoons, we do have the rats. If you do normal summon, you don't have to always normal summon them, but it can be. Same with Viper, it doesn't always have to be normal summoned, it usually isn't, but I would still consider it a normal summon monster in most cases. And so Tour Guide does sort of add to that problem, but I do think in a lot of cases the risk outweigh the benefits. As for the spells, we do play 2 Painful Decisions. That's pretty standard for any Metalfoes deck, Zoodiacs or not. Then we have 1 Fusion, 1 Full Metalfoes Fusion, also standard for any Metalfoes deck, especially any hybrid where you don't have as many pendulum monsters, so it isn't as important to have multiple Full Metalfoes Fusions. And then really for the Zoodiac spells, we have 1 Elemental Triangle and 1 Tenki. So we all know what Tenki does, but Elemental Triangle is a continuous spell card, and the effect is that you can target 1 face-up card you control and destroy it. And if you do, special summon 1 Zoodiac monster from your deck. You can only use 1 Elemental Triangle per turn, and if this card is destroyed by a card effect and sent to the graveyard, target 1 Zoodiac Xyz monster you control, and attach this to it as Xyz material. The second effect really doesn't come up too often, but the first effect is the important one. And so essentially what it does is you activate this and you can destroy another face-up card in the field, whether that be your Tenki, whether that just be a Metalfoes scale, or even itself. And then you special summon a Zoodiac from your deck, and usually that's going to be the Marmorat, because that's going to get all of your plays started. So it's just a 1 card Marmorat, and it's just really good because it doesn't require your normal summon. I was considering playing 2, but ultimately I didn't feel like I had a large enough Zoodiac engine for it, because if you consider Zoodiac, Tenki, and Tour Guide, you can only use 1 of those per turn, because the Zoodiac play requires 3 rats in deck, or 1 on field and 2 others in deck, and so as soon as you take out that first one, you can't do the combo multiple times. And so I didn't want to have too many starter cards for the Zoodiac engine that didn't quite work with the Metalfoes, whereas Tour Guide sort of works with Metalfoes in a sense, but I didn't want too many Elemental Triangles, Tenkis, and Tour Guide, if that makes any sense. And then finally for the traps, I played 1 counter, 1 combination, and 2 dimensional barriers. For the extra deck, I played 2 Mithrilium, 2 Alcahest, 1 Orichalc, and 1 Adamante. I really like this ratio in hybrids. A lot of times in hybrid decks, you don't really need the 3rd Mithrilium as much, but you do need to go into the 2nd Alcahest if you can't make the 3rd Mithrilium. And so it's sort of like a personal preference in my opinion, but I also think because we do play DAIGUSTO EMERAL, which we'll get to later, it makes it less necessary to play the 3rd Mithrilium. And so I'm very happy with the fusion lineup right now. For the Xyz monsters, we play 1 M-X-SABER Invoker, because we can summon it with a Tour Guide pretty easily. But we can also summon it with the Magispector engine, which is something I think a lot of people sort of forget. Because there are some hands where you might open Raccoon and that extra silvered, in which case you could just go into Invoker, and then special summon your Zoodiac, special summon your Marmorat, and then go into your Zoodiac plays. Or if you open Raccoon and then Unicorn, you can just normal summon Raccoon, search another Raccoon, you already have the Unicorn, and then when you make your Pendulum play, Pendulum out that 2nd Raccoon and then go into Invoker, go into your Zodiac plays. And so you have a lot of ways of summoning Invoker, and it really just helps you get into your plays a little bit faster, especially if you don't draw any of your Zodiac cards. Then we have 1 Breaksword, which is obviously really good for answering established boards, destroying combination. It's just sort of a jack of all trades. So now let's talk about some of the Zodiac Beast Xyz monsters, and they all have a lot of similarities in that none of them have any attack or defense. Their attack and defense is equal to the attack and defense of all of the Zodiac monsters that are attached to it as Xyz material. So because in this deck we only have Marmorat and Viper, and Marmorat has 0 attack, that means that their attack is usually just going to be 1200 at max, but it's usually just going to be 0/0. So they have no attack or defense in most cases, and then they can be summoned by just overlaying over another Zodiac monster that you control with a different name. And so if I just normal summon a Marmorat, for example, I can Xyz with any of the other ones. I can just overlay any of the Zoodiac Xyz monsters on top of that for free. So I don't need 2 monsters, I just need 1. It's really similar to like Gaia Dragon or Utopia Lightning. So after the attack thing, and then being able to overlay, they each have an individual specific effect. And so first we play 1 Wild Bow. And Wild Bow's effect is that when this card with 12 or more Xyz materials inflicts battle damage to your opponent, you send as many cards as possible from your opponent's hand and field to the graveyard, and then change this card to defense. And so this effect is actually impossible to pull off in this deck, so it's only So it's only in here as like another name, because you just need extra materials a lot of times, and so it's necessary in the deck, but the effect isn't really useful. Artwork is pretty cool though. That's one thing I really like about this archetype, is they have really good artwork. I think it's a pretty cool theme as well. So next we play one Zoodiac Beast Tigris. And once again, all the Zodiac Exes monsters have very similar effects. The 0/0 attack and defense normally, the ability to overlay with just one card. So the unique effect of Tigris is that once per turn you can detach one material from this card, then target one Exes monster you control and one Zoodiac monster in your graveyard, and then attach that Zoodiac monster to that Exes monster that you targeted as material. And so usually what you're going to do is to attach a Marmorat that's in your graveyard to Tigris, so you can use Marmorat's effect again. But you can also target other Exes monsters you have. And so like if you have a DAIGUSTO Emerald that's been all used up, or any of your Exes really, so it really just allows you to refuel a lot of your plays, especially your Zoodiac ones. So next we play one Bullhorn, and Bullhorn's unique effect is that once per turn you can detach one Exes material from this card to add one Beast Warrior monster that can be normal summoned from your deck to your hand. And so that means that you can add a DRAGOONS to DRAGONIA if you want to have your low scale. You can search a Viper if you want to protect your monsters, or even to give them more attack. You can add another Marmorat if you want to do that. You have a few different options. It's also important to note that Bullhorn can be summoned normally. It only requires 2 level 4 monsters, and so it is a generic rank 4. And so if you don't open any Zoodiac monsters, but you have the ability to summon 2 gold drivers, you can make a rank 4, then add one to your hand, and overlay over this with some other things. You can do a lot of really crazy things with just 2 rank 4s. So that's one thing I think a lot of people forget. And then finally, one Zoodiac Beast Drancia. And so this is sort of the boss monster, the main one that we're trying to summon. And Drancia's effect is that once per turn during either player's turn, you can detach one Exes material from this card, then target one face-up card on the field and destroy it. And so it's extremely versatile in that you can target any card, whether monster, spell, or trap, as long as it's face-up, you can target and destroy it. It doesn't have to be your opponent's card, it can be your own card, you can target your own combination. So there are really a lot of plays that you can make with Drancia, and the fact that you can just make it for free pretty much really gives you some easy disruption on your opponent's turn. And then if you can attach a Viper to it as well, it's really hard for your opponent to destroy because they can't. Because you can just chain Drancia to destroy whatever they do and they can't attack over it because you have the Viper. And then for the last 3 Exes monsters we do play one Brotherhood of the Fire Fist Tiger King, because this can search our Tinky, which once again can help us get into our plays. So if we don't have the Dragoons or Dragonia, or we don't have the Viper, we can go into this, search the Tinky, and then search that as well. And it also gives our monsters a cute little 100 attack point boost. And the other effect also comes up too, so sometimes if your opponent has a board, like a really big board, they might have something that triggers in the battle phase, or whatever it could be, you can go ahead and summon Tiger King and then negate all of their monsters. And so I actually did this in a mirror match once, because my opponent had they had a Drancia and they had a Viper under it, and because Viper says that it becomes the Exes monster's effect, I was able to negate that Exes monster's effect with Tiger King and then just attack over it without getting any of my monsters banished. So there really are a couple situations when the Tiger King does come up, and so it's pretty useful. I think it's important to play. And then finally, we play one Dire Wolf and one DAIGUSTO Emerald. So Emerald definitely is sort of an all-star in this deck. You shuffle back your Zoodiacs all the time. You shuffle back your Mithriliums, your Alcahest, whatever you need to shuffle back, you shuffle it back. And Dire Wolf is essentially MST, and so, you can never go wrong with Dire Wolf. And then for the side deck, once again, do take this with a grain of salt because the format isn't yet defined. This is just what I've been testing with. So we play 2 Gamecios. I think this is good against DDDs because I just want to answer their board without them being able to interact, especially when they have so many cards that do interact with you. They have the Crystal Wings, the Siegfrieds, the Harbingers, like just so much, and a lot of times you just need a Kaiju to deal with it. 2 Retaliating Seas against Metalfoes, 2 Flying Seas against Zoodiacs, but I'm actually starting to not like this. I was really loving it at first, and it's sort of good in theory, but they can just destroy it with Elemental Triangle, a special summon a Zoodiac monster from their deck for free, or a lot of Zoodiacs will play the Kaiju variant, so they'll just play Slumber and kill this. And so in theory, Flying Seas are pretty good, but in practice, there are a lot of outs to it, and so I'm not really a fan of it anymore, and I'm going to change this going forward for sure. 1 Ghost Ogre, this is good in a lot of matchups. It's pretty good against Metalfoes, ABCs, Zoodiacs. I think it's just really necessary in the format moving forward. Then we have 2 System Down for ABCs, 1 Raigeki for just answering established boards and just going second in general, 2 Cosmic Cyclones for Paleozoic and any other trap deck, and then finally 1 Vanity's Emptiness. And you're going to notice that there is 1 Seasonal Direction here, and I actually wasn't quite sure if I should play this in the main deck, and so I just wanted to ask you guys what you think about this. And so what Seasonal Direction the Zoodiac Beast does is that if you target 1 Zoodiac Exes monster you control, and then attach 1 Zoodiac monster from your deck as Exes material. This effect actually isn't too useful, but I guess if you were to make a rank 4 with 2 gold drivers or something, you could attach a Marmorat to it from your deck. But that's not really the important thing. The important part is that during either player's turn, except when it's sent to the graveyard, you can banish this card from your graveyard, then target 5 Zoodiac cards with different names in your graveyard, and then shuffle all 5 of them back to the deck and draw 1 card. So it's essentially a pot of avarice for Zoodiacs, and then you can just send it to the graveyard when you summon your Marmorat. And so I was really considering playing this in the main deck, but my only problem with it was that, for one, Marmorat has to be normal summoned in order to send it to the graveyard, and so there are a lot of times where you'll special summon it, such as with Seasonal Direction or with Invoker. But then also, that Seasonal Direction is sort of a bad draw. Like, if you draw this, then there is no way to get it into the graveyard. Because we already play a good amount of bricks. Like, all the Metalfoes Speller Traps are bricks. Like, you never want to draw any of those. So adding another card that you generally don't want to draw, considering we also play a high number of normal summons, I really wasn't sure if that would be safe. But once again, there's going to be a poll in the top right corner of the screen. Let me know if you think I should be playing Seasonal Direction. If so, I'll try to fit it in here and I'll let you know how that goes. But with that being said, thanks for watching, guys. This has been my Zoodiac Metalfoes deck profile. And once again, if you'd like to see duels with this deck, like this video, and if this gets to 50 likes, I'll upload a duel video with it. Or I'll upload multiple duel videos with this. I've been playing this deck a lot, so I have a lot of replays. And so, as always, let me know what you think about this deck in the comment section below. If there's anything you think can be changed, I'm definitely open to hearing that. And then, as always, guys, like, comment, and subscribe. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys later. Bye.
Those cerulean tides, sapphire, a sapphire dive.